Los Angeles Clippers are looking great going into next season. They made a good amount of moves, and they're one of the teams in the West that have improved a lot. Not everyone has liked these moves, but I really like them. So like some of the things they've done, they've traded for John Collins. They signed Bradley Beal from the buyout from the Suns. They signed Brook Lopez, and they also signed Chris Paul recently. And I think all of these are great pickups. Now, one downside to these pickups is that you lose a bit of defense. You know, John Collins isn't the greatest defender, neither is Bradley Beal. Brook Lopez is a pretty good interior defender. He's a great shot blocker. That's what he's been known for. But he's a bit older now, so maybe it's not as good. But he's still a good shot blocker and better than most centers across the league. So I think that's good on the defensive end. And Chris Paul, he's always been a great defensive guard, but you know, as he's gotten older, he's 40 now, so that defense has definitely fallen off a cliff. But it's not like horrible. But he's a small guard and he's also old, so obviously the defense is not going to be the same, and he might be a liability sometimes. But other than the defensive end, I think these pickups are great. All four of these guys are capable of hitting threes. Brook Lopez and Chris Paul aren't the highest volume 3-point shooters, and they don't have great efficiency anymore. But they are pretty good. They're capable of shooting threes, and they can definitely space the floor. First, I want to talk about the Brook Lopez pickup because the Clippers were in need of a backup center, and getting Brook Lopez, this big 7', 7'1" body who can block shots from the interior, hit threes, space the floor as a big man. I think this is a great pickup for them. You know, since he can protect the rim and Zubac, their starting center, can protect the rim, they'll basically have great rim protection for 48 minutes a game. Every single game, they'll have great interior defense. So I think getting Brook Lopez as a backup center, especially because they didn't have a backup center and they needed a solid one, is a great move for the Clippers, and I think he will only improve this team. Then for Chris Paul, that was recently, and you know, of course, Chris Paul is a Clippers legend. He used to play for the Clippers back in his prime, and now it's looking like he's going to finish his career here because he's going to retire after this year. So just getting Chris Paul, though, you know, even though he's older now and the production isn't the same as it was even a few years ago, he's still an amazing facilitator, high IQ. He can still pass the ball, like that hasn't left him. So leading that backup unit, when Harden comes out of the game, Chris Paul, they have another great facilitator that can come in and run the offense really well. So having a great facilitator for 48 minutes of the game, having amazing rim protection for 48 minutes of the game, they have good defense and offense. So I think they're having really the right ideas in mind. So they can always have a smart, high IQ veteran point guard running the offense, getting their guys involved and all of that good stuff. And now for the John Collins acquisition. The Clippers have never really had like the greatest power forward play, I don't think. Last year, I'm pretty sure Kawhi was playing a lot of power forward for them. You know, these small forwards have been sliding up to power forwards as like small ball fours. So getting John Collins, he's about like 6'10". That's a great big four to have. He's also a stretch four, so he can shoot the three. So that's another spacer on the floor for them, especially having a big like Zubac who doesn't shoot. So maybe John Collins can space the floor. He does usually like to score in the paint, though. He's a great lob threat. So maybe Harden can get him involved in some of those actions, get him on lobs, easy points. I don't know how that's going to work, though, if he is standing in the paint, also with Zubac. So maybe the spacing can be a little iffy sometimes. But John Collins is a great three-point shooter. He shot well from the three last season, especially for his size. He's a good three-point shooter. So I think he can really help with the shooting, of course, and the spacing. But one thing that is kind of sacrificed a bit or just might get worse is the defense. You know, I've been saying how they've had great interior defense, but their perimeter defense has taken a bit of a hit. Their best perimeter defender in the starting lineup depends on who they're starting, but maybe it could be Chris Dunn if he's starting at the shooting guard. But I'm assuming they're going to start Bradley Beal. We'll get to him in a minute, who isn't the best defender. But they have some good defenders coming off the bench like Derrick Jones and Chris Dunn, as I mentioned, perimeter defenders, that is. So I don't know how it's going to be in the starting lineup, though, because, you know, Kawhi is a solid defender, but he isn't the defender he used to be. You know, we all know Harden isn't a great defender. He's not a complete liability, but he's not someone that you want guarding a team's best player. Bradley Beal, who we're going to get to in a minute, isn't the greatest defender. Maybe he can do better in this Clippers environment with Ty Lue coaching him now and not in a trash situation like the Suns, but he's not that good of a defender. Like John Collins, he's pretty solid. And then Zubac, he's a great interior defender. So they don't really have that many good perimeter defenders in the starting lineup at least. But I think they could hold it down, especially with a great coach like Ty Lue. You know, everyone doubted the Clippers even last year. I don't think anybody came in thinking they were going to be like a good team or not a defensive stopping team. And they ended up being both. They ended up having great defense, being a good team, defying the odds. So I'm never going to go against the Clippers. They're always competitive regardless. And especially with this lineup, it's still amazing. They'll probably still have pretty solid defense. It'll just be sacrificed a little bit because of the people who they've acquired and lost during this offseason. Now, Bradley Beal, as you may know, Norman Powell got traded to the Heat for John Collins. So they lost Norman Powell this offseason, and they replaced him with Bradley Beal. And replacing him with Bradley Beal, I think, is amazing. I think he can do the same exact things Norman Powell was doing and play the same exact role that Norman Powell was playing. They're very similar players, and now after getting Bradley Beal, they got him on a much smaller contract than he was when the Suns, making $50 million. I think he's making like $11 million over 2 years now, so that's like $5-6 million a year for Bradley Beal. And Bradley Beal is still a great player. It's just his value, his people's perception, like point of view on him was like kind of like it was very negative because he was making $50 million a year, and obviously with his production isn't worth $50 million. But getting him for about $5 or $6 million is great, and I think it's a steal. He's a very efficient player, shooting like 50-40 splits. He can give you 17 to 20 points a game and do the Norman Powell stuff that I was just talking about. So he's a great replacement for Norman Powell, and I think he can give them a lot of offense and scoring punch. He might be one of their higher scoring players. He can probably be around like Kawhi and Harden in scoring. So having that big three of scorers will help them a lot on the offensive side of things. And yeah, I think they didn't lose too much this offseason. I think they are better. They only lost Norman Powell, Drew Eubanks, and Patty Mills. Drew Eubanks and Patty Mills weren't integral parts of his team, especially not Patty Mills. I don't think he played that much, but Drew Eubanks, he might have played a little bit, but he wasn't like a core piece to this team, so it doesn't really hurt to lose him. The biggest person that they're losing, obviously the most important person, is Norman Powell, and I already said Bradley Beal is a great replacement for him. So I definitely think they did improve, but the one bad thing that everyone is bringing up and talking about is their average age and how old they are. They're saying it's like a retirement home or whatever. Most of these players are really old on this team, so that's a lot. That's like a big thing to consider and a big reason why I don't think they'll be a contender. I think they could be a solid playoff team, but I just don't think they're going to be a contender because of their age. I don't think this old of a roster can get through 16 wins in the playoffs and win the championship or even get to the finals. So that's a bad thing. And then also another thing is that they're the Clippers. Like, I don't ever see the Clippers winning like a title or like making the finals or being really like a super serious team. Like, obviously they're always going to be competitive and compete in the regular season, get a good amount of wins, make the playoffs, but they're not going to make it far. Like, they're not going to make it that far every year. The one time they made the conference finals with Paul George, like, that was the first time in however long, or maybe the first time ever. So the Clippers are really not a serious franchise. But besides that, on a positive note, they are a good team. They are going to get up regular season wins. They can maybe even make it past the second round. The biggest concern for them, though, is their age. So we'll see how this goes.